we're here tonight not just to mourn and not just to comfort each other and not to grieve with the victims and their families, but we're here to say enough. We joined with people at well over 300 vigils tonight to tell our president and our elected officials that they must work immediately to enact comprehensive, common sense gun control legislation. We are not asking, we are demanding. The senseless tragedies and the heartbreak must come to an end. And now I think we should have a moment of silence for all victims of gun violence, and particularly in our hearts are those children and the teachers tonight. Thank you. Now I want to introduce Mary Ann Morris, board member who's here.
My name is Mary Ann Morris, and I just want to say the tragedy yesterday, we can't imagine what the families are going to, but our heart goes out to them. We just ask God to heal their pain. And I just want to say we have to find some solution. This is affecting everyone. Everyone is totally out of control. A year ago, my nephew got shot. He got killed. A month and like a week ago or so, my grandson got shot from a drive-by car driving by, killed him. You know, we have to come together and say enough, enough. You know, it has to stop. It's not affecting one person, it's affecting anybody. It can hit home any day, any day. You know, those people sent their kids to school yesterday, had no idea their babies would not come back home again. How many mothers are worried to death about sending their kids to school on Monday because they don't know what's gonna happen? Enough, enough. We have to take control and find a solution for this here now. Thanks everyone for coming.
Now Steve Max.
Friends and neighbors, we used to say that the personal is political, which is true, but the political is also political. And I want to do us a quick rundown on where our local representatives and our senators are standing at this moment on this issue, and then ask everybody to sign the petition that we have to them and take some petitions with you. Now, let me just take a look at my notes here. Now, the gold standard of this is, of course, Jerry Nadler. And Jerry went right on his webpage and said that there are 10 bills in the House right now, all of which, or any one of which, would move the situation forward. But how are we to get them out? Jerry says that there can be a discharge petition. And the advantage of the discharge petition is that every member of the House, including the Republicans, are then asked to sign it, and they have to say yes or no. They can't hide behind the Speaker not calling it to a vote. Now, he says that it's too late to do it in the lame duck session, but that it can be done in the next session. And he says the key to this is action by the President. The President has to get out in front and move the issue. So that's Jerry Nadler's opinion. Our other congressman from our district, Charlie Rangel, has on his website words of condolence and sadness and says nothing about gun control. Perhaps he will, but he hasn't yet. Now, as to our senators, we have, I don't know what to call it exactly, prevarication perhaps. Senator Schumer says, perhaps an awful tragedy like this, well, what about this? Perhaps an awful tragedy like this will bring us together so we can do what it takes to prevent this horror from being repeated again. Well, a noble sentiment. And Senator Gillibrand says that the American people are entitled to a conversation. Well, yes, but that is not enough. We are entitled to a legislation. And she then suggests a number of things that the conversation could be about, but the only thing concretely she says she will do is to continue to support legislation she's already introduced to limit illegal guns. But this was a situation of legal guns. So that is where they stand, and that is why we need to circulate the petition to them, telling them that we demand immediate and visible action by them. But before I close, I just want to say a word about the Second Amendment, because of course we all support the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, right? But we need to remember what the Second Amendment was about, right? It said a well-regulated militia being necessary. And the word regulated, well, you've seen it. You've seen it on antique clocks where it says regulator, right? And that means that clock was very precisely made, and the clockmaker has it, and it's what he sets all his other clocks by. A well-regulated militia is well-drilled and well-disciplined, and not like those other kinds of militias in colonial America, like the Green Mountain Boys and Shays' Rebellion, where people got a little out of hand. A well-regulated militia is necessary, said the Constitution. Now, why did it say that? It said that because the Constitution created two things that were wholly new in America. One was a president, and the second was a standing army, and the president was the commander-in-chief of the standing army, and that had never happened before here. And people said that sounds a little like King George of England, and the president is even named George. So what might this lead to? It might lead to the disarming of the state militias, which had been how the country had been defended up until that point. And so they put in the Constitution that a well-regulated militia was necessary. Now, in that day, when you volunteered for the militia, the state very often didn't have a gun to give you, and so you brought your own. And that was why protecting the right to bear arms was linked to the militia. But so at this point, we might just as well say if people want the right to bear arms, they should join the National Guard, which is what the militia became. But that's why we have that amendment. The Founding Fathers never imagined that any such tragedy as this would happen, and they certainly would never have insisted that we stand by this amendment if they knew that this is what it led to. So please take the petition, sign them, let us put pressure on the elected officials and start this thing moving. Thank you.
I know we have a couple of Democratic district leaders, and wondering if Cynthia, Debbie, or Protocol would like to say a word or two.
Yeah, does Cynthia or Curtis want to say something?
UCC. UCC? Yeah. Oh, I see. I just want to add to the fact that we all are shocked and very saddened by what happened and what we witnessed in Connecticut in a matter of 10 minutes, I think. 26 people were killed, 28. And innocent people were gunned down by and mourn those who were killed, but also to turn this into action. And I think the petition is the beginning. I think we have to continue this. Frequently, the argument is that people need to own guns in order to defend themselves. The first person who was killed in this incident, as far as I know, was the mother, who was the owner of the guns, and owning those guns did not defend her. She was killed by her son, and it had no connection with being able to defend herself. So that argument should be off the table. I think we have to be doing more regulating of ammunition, regulating of ownership, background checks, definitely banning high-powered weapons such as assault weapons. There's no reason
for that in this society. Other countries have been doing this and doing it successfully. America is way, way behind the rest of the world. And I think when Australia just did this a few years ago, the homicide rates dropped dramatically. It's not just mass killings, it's the access to guns, to do suicides, to do one-on-one killings. It's in this city, we have gun control regulation, but people can bring in guns and they can access guns from other states. So it needs to be a nationwide effort. And we just have to stand up and keep it on the front burner. A week from now, there'll be another story in the news, and our politicians could easily forget all of that. So it's up to us as community members, family members, to keep this up there on the front burner. I think this petition is the beginning. When Congress comes back in session next year, we need to demand that the Senate and the House take up the legislation to protect us so that we don't have to be out here again at another vigil like this. So I'm glad that so many people have come out. I think the next step is for all of us to take the petition home, circulate it online, to our friends and families, to our neighbors, and make this a nationwide movement. I think now is the time. Thank you, Sophia.
Okay, next we have Curtis Arluck from Broadway Democrats District Leader. And thank you to Mark Levine for joining us from Washington Heights from the Barack Obama Democratic Club. So they'll also give brief remarks.
Thank you all. First of all, let's have a moment of silence for. I'm sorry. Okay, so we've seen many tragedies like this. I think this one strikes at the heart the most. Those little kids and those teachers who died teaching them and defending them. It's just unspeakable. Looking at the internet today, I mean the much maligned internet, so many expressions both of sorrow and of hope and of good, sensible ideas about how we can move forward. The one that stuck in my mind, Cynthia mentioned this as well, Australia had something like 10 mass shootings. They banned assault weapons. They have had no mass shootings in the 15 or so years since they instituted that ban. More than just legal guns versus illegal guns. This national conversation, and yes, we can't just talk, but we do need to talk. We do need to change people's minds. This national conversation has to be about the idea of guns in general and what guns are doing, especially handguns. None of these calamitous, horrific accidents have been done with hunting, or murders I should say, have been done with hunting rifles. This has nothing to do with hunters. Though I think we do have to say to the hunters, we are not targeting your rifles in the woods. But if you do not stop us being targeted by murderers in our cities and towns with assault weapons, maybe we will target you and your guns. These are two separate issues. You keep your guns, you keep them in the woods. We've got to figure out a way to keep automatic weapons out of our cities and towns and classrooms. The woman who died somehow felt the need to own one was a Glock and 3 automatic pistols and rifles. Why? Why did she need that? It was a mistake that she paid for with her life, her son's life, and most importantly, all those kids and teachers who died. The conversation must be these Weapons are bad, they are useless. They must not only be banned, but the culture must change so that a person who contemplates having these things will be ostracized as if they were the shooter themselves. There is nothing good that comes out of these weapons. I will close with a tragic event that happened in this city, on this island, 101 years ago. That was the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, another horrific loss of young lives. Out of that, we got some of the best social legislation, welfare legislation in the world. Out of that, many future lives were saved. We can do it again. We will do it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Mark Levine, Democratic District Leader from the Barack Obama Club.
Thank you, Len. As Curtis points out, America at its best responds to tragedy with introspection and debate and ultimately a search for solutions. We did it with workplace safety. In this country, when an airplane crashes, we find a way to make air travel safer. We had an epidemic of drunk driving in the 70s, and we have found a way to make the roads safer. We had a hurricane here in recent weeks, and we're looking for ways to make flood prevention better. So why is it that when in the wake of a mass shooting, we call for fixing gun laws, people say that's politicizing a tragedy? The fact is, this remains a country where there are more barriers to renting a car than there are to purchasing an assault weapon. And yes, this is a moment to mourn and to grieve as a country, but we do not honor the victims who we lost yesterday if we don't do everything in our power to prevent there being future victims. So as Steve said, we must aggressively push for our elected officials to stop at nothing to get reasonable, effective gun laws on the books. And I look forward to working with all of you to make that a reality. Thank you.
One more, last speaker, Danielle Gerard, the president of Three Parks Independent Democrats.
Hi, I'm Danielle Gerard, the president of Three Parks Independent Democrats. And I just want to say you've heard from all these people about what a tragedy this is on a personal level and on a national level. And I just want to say you're all here because a couple of people took action and we have petitions. And I just want to say, and I'd like your help in saying, what do we want? Gun control. And when do we want it? Now. What do we want? Gun control. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Gun control. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Gun control. When do we want it? Now. Louder, one more time. What do we want? Gun control. When do we want it? Now. And thank you to Lynn and Steve for pulling and Mark for speaking, and thank you all for coming out tonight.
And for the hundreds of other vigils happening all across the country at this time.